never talked to them boys that sat on them benches. I was in the game for a 4th inches.
Now it's time to go to work.
What is going on, Florida State family, Seminole Nation, in the 863 tribe? Here's your boy POLK. No, just started hearing myself. My bad, y'all. I look pretty blurry on the screen, but that should fix itself in time. How is everybody doing on a Friday night? We had a big weekend this week. Excuse me, big week. And now we're going into the weekend. You are on the most interactive show on YouTube. And I gotta tell you, well, before all of that, man, before we do all of that, let's pay the bills, man, and then we'll get into what we really came here to talk about. Let me take a sip. 863 Seminole TV is on TikTok now. I am a TikToker. I just decided, you know what? Let's get on TikTok and see how that works out for me. So we are officially TikToking away. Go follow me on TikTok. 863 Seminole TV. No underscore on TikTok. So just 863 Seminole TV. Go follow us on TikTok, man. Go follow us on TikTok. As always, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and share the videos. Let folks know we are here, live, and ready to thrive. As also you see, I got one of the new shirts on, but man, I posted it in the community chat. So if you ain't seen the full shirt, go check it out. Hoodie, shirts, it's all coming together slowly but surely, y'all. It's all coming together. Keon Coleman. Well, let's do a quick roll call. When was the last time we were live? Was it last Friday? Last time we were live, I think so. Last time we were live, we were talking about Dustin Howe. I think it was last Friday, man. So it's been a week since we talked. But let's do a quick roll call. As Stroking the Flames in the building, Tyler Hedden, FSU Tony, Fonte B, Island Boy, William, Lewis, Montre, Jeff, Seminole Zach, Sane 305.
Hey! Stop touching me! This is my fire station.
Panama Jack, FSU Known, EMG, Blackshear, Michael Gaines, 21, Terrence, D. Thompson, Zoe, John Shields, John Harrell, Josh Johnson, and VJ's in the building. Earlier in the week, man, we had your boy, what's his name? Safety, man. JUCO safety. Ashton, what's his name, y'all? Baker. I know his last name's Baker. I'm pretty sure his last name's Baker. I think it's Ashton Baker, if I'm not mistaken. JUCO. Give me a second. What's the JUCO safety, y'all? Anyway, he's a JUCO guy. Lakers in 6, by the way. Okay, so you think Lakers about to win 4 straight? I don't know about all of that. But shout out to the Nuggets, man. Up 2-0 against the Lakers. I'm trying to figure out who is this safety, man. I honestly forget his name. I haven't really watched anything of him. I know the guy has a good size for the position. He's about 6'2", and what they say, 6'2", closer to 6'3", I think, in the 200-pound range. So he's got good length, good size. He fits the bill of the guys that they've been recruiting lately in terms of size and length. Good news about him. You're talking about a JUCO guy that has 4 years. So it's you've essentially just got another high schooler. I mean, he has 4 years of eligibility. You essentially get a guy like if you were getting him at a high school. They say he's fast. I don't know how fast. They put out silly numbers. I think rumored to run a 4.443 or whatever. Look, they said the same thing about Chuba Purdy, man, and we saw how that played out. If he was 6'3" running a 4.3, I don't know if he's in the JUCO ranks. But some people slip through the cracks. So we'll see who and what he is What is his name? No one still hasn't told me his name, and I legitimately forgot this kid's name, man. But I want to cover him before we get into why we're all here, as we all know why we're here. Let me find this kid real quick, man. I'm pretty sure his last name's Baker. I just don't remember his first name, but I'm almost positive it starts with an A. Pretty positive it starts with the A. Let me see here. There he is. Ashland. I'm assuming that's Ashland. Ashland Baker, Iowa Western Community College. So there you go. Ashland Baker. Shout out to Ashland Baker. We need safety depth. So it's good to get him. Again, good size, good length, apparently good athleticism. We'll have to wait till I actually see him on the field. I think the only film of him is like high school film. So I don't know what you really take from that, as he is a JUCO guy. But I think he redshirted at JUCO. Could be wrong there. Again, I don't know everything about him. Not a guy that I followed particularly. Didn't have any particular interest in him. Good to have some depth there. Maybe he can contribute on special teams. I don't have a big expectation for him, quite frankly, which means anything you get out of him, as far as I'm concerned, is a plus. So Ashland Baker, community college, JUCO guy. But that's not why we're here, but I had to give him his just due because we did land him after missing out on Key. We still got a safety. Had to give him his just due. But we all came here. What's going on, Jason? But we all came here to talk about there's some JUCO practice film. Okay, I mean, that's fair. I don't know how much you take from JUCO practice film, but I mean, it is what it is. Again, it's a good take from the standpoint of you get a lengthy DB with 4 years. So this isn't a 1 year, 2 year rental. I don't know what he is, but it ain't the finished product you're not getting. You get 4 years to develop him. So you add him to a rotation of Hussey and Kirkland or Quindarius Jones, whoever they want to play there at that safety. I know they worked Kirkland more so at corner during the spring. That doesn't mean he won't play safety in the fall. They'll figure that out. You could have AZ moving to that safety spot because I think you might want to add an experienced guy, a third guy that's experienced that you can rotate. I don't know if you want to completely rely on a bunch of freshmen there. And if you had to ask me if there's one guy I'm moving out of that corner rotation, it's AZ. When you got Cypress, when you got Ronaldo Green, when you got Jarius Jones, Greedy Van, Jarian Jones. I said Jarius. Jarian Jones, Greedy Vance. You got a little more leeway at corner, so maybe you can move at AZ. You get Edwin Joseph also coming in there, so maybe you can move at AZ. They might not exactly be done in the portal, by the way. There may be a very good chance that they add another DB out of the portal. So just be on the lookout for that. And yeah, man, I mean, it's coming together. You know, the back half of this defense, as of right now, I would say is the worry. I'm not saying I'm greatly worried, but if you had to ask me if I was concerned about anything, it would probably be that. It'd probably be the back half. If I was concerned about anything, it'd probably be the back half. And so you're taking your steps. You're taking your steps to address it. And Ashland Baker is the most recent addition to that back end of the defense. And shout out to Jeff, man. Jeff just hit us with a $10 dono. I see what R.A. Nixon just said there. I'm gonna ask why in a second, but I'm gonna get to Jeff first. Jeff with the $10 said, one question. I don't see a weakness on offense. We're gonna get to the offense, Jeff. Don't jump the gun on me. But thank you for the $10. But he says, I don't see a weakness on offense. Tell me where is the weakness. The only way I can see any defense stopping our offense is if we do it ourselves. I don't see any lies told there, man, Jeff. I don't disagree with much of anything what you just said.
Jeff.
Dangbase says a national championship piece here. I think he's talking about Keon Coleman. Jason says, I think he's trying to say where Demore at. Demore gone. And Josh Johnson says our front seven will offset the depth of our safety. Very possible. Very possible. Should field a top 10 defense with a top 5 offense. No way we are not at least looking at playoffs, if not winning at all. Big expectations right here coming from Josh Johnson. Okay, let me paint my mindset before, was it Wednesday that he committed? I think it was Wednesday. My mindset. As of Monday of this week, believe it or not, I didn't think we were a playoff team. Or let me rephrase that. We were a fringe playoff team. Like we could get in if everything went right. It's kind of like I felt like we would be in a position like USC. USC, had they won their games, had they beat Utah, would have been in the playoffs. I felt like we would have been in that type of position where we weren't a guaranteed playoff team, in my opinion. If we took care of business, we could get there. But the playoffs, on this, from my outlook, the playoffs were not an expectation for me as of Monday. And it had a little bit to do with a couple of things. Defensive depth. I'm still, in totality, the back end of our defense, while coming together, is not there. I don't know if that's a championship caliber secondary. You guys may disagree, but I will hold firm on that. I love our interior D-line depth. I question my edge depth. I think Pat and Verse can be the best 1-2 in the nation. Past that, you have a ton of question marks. Gilbert Edmond didn't look great at South Carolina. Didn't look too much more impressive in the spring game. It's just the spring game, but I need to see more from Gilbert Edmond. Then after that, it's a complete drop-off. It's a complete – I don't doubt Byron Turner. I don't doubt Dante Anderson. I don't doubt Jaden Jones. What I question is we've never seen them. We've never seen them make plays in this uniform. They're huge question marks. If I'm just really counting on Verse and Pat, what we saw last year, Verse got hurt. And it took him a few games to get back up to snuff. And some people don't think he kind of really ever got quite healthy. I mean, that should worry you as a Florida State fan if you lose Pat or Verse, because I don't know what breaks it up. It doesn't mean someone can't emerge. This time last year, we might have thought Pat Payton had an opportunity, just like we think Byron Turner or Dante Anderson has that opportunity. But this time last year, we did not know Pat was going to be the freshman, the ACC Rookie of the Year. So it's possible that someone emerges. I'm not saying that. I would like to be more – if we're talking about national championship playoff caliber, we need to have more answers than questions. I think we have a ton of answers if we're talking just ACC championship. And when we get to that level, I feel like we have a little bit more questions than answers that I'm comfortable with saying national championship contender, right? So the edge depth worries me. Though I think there's a lot of potential there, right? And I also think it gets a little offset because I do think a guy like Fisk and I do think Dennis Briggs will play some jumbo DN at times. So that does offset your edge depth, but they're not true pass rushers, right? So you're gonna pair them with Verse and Pat, obviously. But I do think they give you some depth there, but they're not true pass rushers. And then linebacker depth, as long as if Omar Graham is what he looked like in the spring, I'm less concerned about backer. But it is the spring. So you have to always take the spring with a grain of salt. This leads me, though, to Keon Coleman. And he has just changed the dynamic of this football team. And you can say, well, it's just a wide receiver, and that's true. It's just a wide receiver. And before I continue, I want to get to the comments. I see some people talking, so I want to get to the comments here. Is Ja'Kai Douglas giving up? I asked the same question on Twitter. Does Ja'Kai have? Is he giving up zero? So I don't know, man. With LSU secondary being mostly new transfers, I think we have upper hand first game. Hopefully D line Paul. Hopefully the D line pause handles their business, and that helps out our secondary. Hey, Pope, let's go Heat and shut up. VJ man been giving me hell since the Heat beat the Knicks. I know he gone. Just wondering if I don't think Demori's landed anywhere. Does anybody know about that? Great question from Jason. Yeah, I don't know if he landed anywhere, to be honest with you. Heisman and Natty is possible, if not definitely possible. Definitely is possible. Absolutely. Um, no, Pope, we were playing for the Natty this year. Have faith, man. Well, I'm gonna explain some things. Pope, give me your opinion on the balance offense. A lot of weapons. Don't worry, it's coming. It's coming. Need to get something out of Edmund Anderson and or Jones. JV5 Pat Camp. That exactly. I agree with Jason. Brian says at some point we have to trust the staff. We'll turn question marks into. Well, look, this has nothing to do with the staff. Like, we can't do that. Just because you have questions doesn't mean it's attack on the staff. And we got to stop pretending like I don't care how good a staff is. Mike Norvell and these guys can be on the way to being great. You can't say they're great right now, but they have been very good in year 3, and we hope it continues in year 4. This is not a question of the staff, though. Nick Saban has missed on guys. Urban Meyer has missed on guys. Like great coaches have recruited 5 stars and missed on them. So just because you have faith in the staff doesn't mean there still aren't question marks. There will always be question marks. Hell, Nick Saban's the greatest coach of his generation. Right now, Alabama had to go out and get a portal quarterback because they missed on their quarterbacks. Like, these things happen, right? This is not me questioning a staff. This is more so me just saying that we got question marks, and let's see if who, if anyone, emerges. That's all I'm saying. But let's get to the point I'm making. Coleman. Now, Coleman enters the picture. If you don't know, obviously we're late here talking about it, but we're going to talk about it from a different lens. Coleman obviously commits. Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. Shout out to William with the $4 dono. He says, "Go Noles, beat Miami." Oh, that's easy money. Beating Miami is easy money. Speaking of Keon, he said he in Tallahassee. He with them Seminoles. Thank you for the $4 dono, bro.
Tallahassee, I'm with the Seminoles. I've been getting to this paper, focus on my goals. Trying to run this money up and pull up in a row. All this talking gangster, that shit getting old.
Keon changes the dynamic because I thought the offense was going to be good regardless. I think a lot of people thought, including myself, you had to take. Like, Kentron looked great in the spring when you digested it and you calmed down. You had to take his performance with a grain of salt, right? You had to take his performance with a grain of salt because he's. Again, go look at the guys. Go look at the guys that he's making plays against. Go look at those guys. You're talking about walk-ons, right? Apparently the burgers are ready, y'all. But he's making plays against some walk-ons. So it's not that Tron couldn't be wide receiver number 2. Is that I think you would have been expecting a tremendous leap for wide receiver number 2. And then the question then becomes made me lose my train of thought. Tron's not a guy that anybody's going to game plan for, okay? You got Kentron, you got Johnny on the outside. You're going, okay, we're going to focus on Johnny. If this guy, Kentron Portier, however you pronounce it, if he can beat us, then damn it, he can just beat us, right? You're just going to, if that's who's beating us, then we deserve to lose. I think that's how most defenses would approach it. Okay, we're going to make sure Johnny's got a guy over the top at all times. We're going to double cover this guy. We're going to make it hard for Johnny. But Kentron Portier, if he can beat us, then damn it, he can beat us. Well, now that has completely gone out the window. And now Tron, you can actually bring him along at a smaller clip and maybe be more effective in certain situations. If this offense, and we're going to get into like the conversation of what is this offense? If this offense is in that 40 plus range of points per game, it helps the defense out tremendously. And my question of the edge almost gets answered by the offense. If teams have to play catch up all game, that's a lot of passes being thrown. That's a lot of pin in your ears, Brack. If you're Jared Verse and Pat Payton, there may be a chance, just from the sheer fact that offense is playing catch up. Some of the defensive weaknesses don't get exposed. Very good chance. The burgers are ready. Burgers are ready. Very good chance, man, that a lot of teams are playing from behind. A lot of teams are passing the ball against two of the better edge rushers in the country, more than they probably want to. Keon Coleman makes it so you do not game plan. You can game plan for Johnny Wilson. But I said this when we were not rumored, but I said this when he was visiting and we were still recruiting him. I said, Keon Coleman is not just coming in here to be wide receiver number 2. Keon Coleman has a legit case to be wide receiver 1. Keon Coleman has a chance that now you have to pick a poison. And you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Johnny Wilson might not be the talent that Keon Coleman is. Johnny Wilson is 6'7", regardless of what you think about whether he's a better NFL prospect than I don't necessarily believe that, to be honest with you. Not a knock on Johnny. I was high on Johnny before when most people were like, "Oh, this guy can't catch." I said, 6'7", 230. I can do something with that. They found a way to do something with it. Regardless if Keon Coleman is wide receiver 1 or not, you cannot just say, "Well, Keon Coleman's too good. We got to take him out the game." The other guy's 6'7". And as the number 1 option last year, he proved he can kill you. So if you really think that's the case, you don't want to leave a corner on the island with Keon either, right? There's no, what do you do? What do you do? Because, oh, by the way, Winston Wright, slot. You got a slot guy. You got a nickel that can probably keep up with Winston Wright. I mean, you might. Most college teams don't. Good luck. All of a sudden, this offense FSU's defense isn't weak. It just lacks key depth, in my opinion. The depth part of the defense may all of a sudden get covered. Might not get exposed. This isn't some Pac-12 team that just is all offense and no defense. Florida State has a defense. Florida State was a top 15 defense last year? Florida State has a defense. Florida State has one of the top 5 edge rushers in the country. We'll just say that. Wherever you think Jared Verse is, he's a top 5 guy. You're probably another, if he's top 5, Pat's probably top 20 in the country. So you wield 2 of the top 20 defensive edge rushers in the country. Kalen DeLoach is going to be one of the better backers in the ACC. I know Clemson's got a couple good ones. Kalen DeLoach is going to be in that. He'll be in the conversation, in my opinion. Don't sleep on Tatum Bethune. All of a sudden, man, it's so hard to prepare for an offense that just has this amount of weapons. And it brings me to what the overall question is what exactly is this offense? Because I saw a wild tweet, and the tweet itself was wrong. But what I think what he was trying to say may be accurate. The tweet, and I don't know it verbatim, the tweet was essentially, this offense might be better than 2013. That is unequivocally false. 2013 is the greatest offense that college football has ever seen. It's not an opinion, that's a fact. In less games and with a slower tempo, they were better than LSU 2019. They were better than any offense you can think of, and they didn't run a gimmick. They didn't speed the pace up. They ran I formation under the center football and put up, what do we average that year? 45 a game, I think. I mean, come on. Okay, you're talking about the greatest offense in 2013. So that is unequivocally false. However, while the production still has to happen, I don't think that we produce at that clip. This offense might be deeper than that offense. Player for player, this offense may be deeper, talent for talent. Let me get to the comments before we continue. Jeff with the $10. This modern day game where they play today's defense is got to keep teams around 30 or under 30 points possible. We could probably win it all. Shout out to Jeff with another one.
Name is Jeff.
A Born Legacy. If you think about it, Johnny is 6'7", Coleman 6'4", Bell 6'4", 6'3", Morlock 6'7", the rest at least 6'3" or better. Who will reach 1,000-yard receiving? Wilson or Keon? I don't know if it wouldn't surprise me if nobody reached 1,000, but that doesn't mean Johnny don't have 8, Keon don't have 7, Jaheim Bell don't have 5, Winston Wright don't have another 5, Toa Philly have about 4 out of the backfield. You feel what I'm saying? Marcus and Douglas going for about 3 or 4. Like, it would not surprise me if you just had something like that. You might not get 1,000-yard receiver. You just might have a guys racking up a bunch of yards. Keon has way more in his bag in terms of route diversity, but both are mismatch nightmares, especially in 12 personnel. Good luck. Johnny may have took another step this offseason. Keon got some swagger that Verse has. Ponder this. All the DBs running to Boulder, but who has prime develop? He did develop any of his sons. Pat Surtain says hello. Keon is giving Jakai some NLL money for 0. Greatest offense. Are you sure? 13 schedule was extremely weak. And we're not going to slander 13 or the schedule. I promise we're not going to do that. LSU 2019 had the best offense and played much tougher schedule than FSU 2013. Just keeping it real. Gold knows. Well, that's your opinion, Adrian. Again, they played more games than Florida State's offense, and they didn't score the same amount of points. But I mean, I get it. Let's go to what I was saying, man, about being deeper. 2013. I want you to name me another wide receiver, not name Rashard Green, Kenny Shaw, or Kelvin Benjamin. I'll wait. I want you to name me an offensive lineman that wasn't in the start five, obviously the starting 5. So not Bobby Hart, Jose Matthias, Trey Jackson, Brian Stewart, or Cam Irvin. And name me a tight end. Name me a tight end, not named Nick O'Leary. See, and this is where we have this conversation, because all of a sudden, what doesn't get talked about 2013 enough is the sheer luck of that team. And when I say luck, not on the field. I mean, they dominated on the field. There was nothing lucky about on the field. And who was Reuben Carter, bro? Like, you just named Reuben Carter offensive lineman. Who was that? Serious question. You named him, so I'm glad you knew the name. Who was he and what did he have? What is Reuben Carter? Is he selling insurance right now? And I'm not trying to knock Reuben Carter, but come on. Is he selling insurance right now? Serious question. I'm glad you could name him, though. No one talks about the sheer luck of that team, and I'm talking about from an injury standpoint. Nobody got hurt. No, hold on. Yeah, Reuben Carter back at the crib. Exactly. Nobody gets hurt on that team. They never had to go to a backup offensive lineman for any extended period of time to get quality snaps. None of the wide receivers ever went down. Again, you can't even name another wide receiver. You can probably name him, but then I ask you how many receiving yards he had. Because the guy that y'all are probably thinking about, he was more of a special teams contributor than an actual wide receiver contributor. You can't name another one. You damn sure can't name another tight end outside of Nick O'Leary if FSU's wielding at least three of those guys. At least three of those guys. I think the conversation for a deeper team is legit. Even the quarterback position. If Jameis had went down, would Jacob Coker had done the same things? I mean, we saw him at Bama, but he wasn't. Come on. Would Jacob Coker had done the same things? I'm not so sure. And yeah, the 2013 offense actually had a fullback out there, which I guess if you want to use that as who's a national championship fullback? Chad Abrams, right? What would Chad Abrams do on this team? Be a situational player at best? The only position that I think is as deep is the running back position. I mean, you're talking about a three-headed monster there in 2013. You're talking about Devontae, you're talking about Wilder, you're talking about Los. All three of those guys had over 500 yards. Devontae had 1,000. Los, I think, had 700. And Wilder had about 500. That's a damn good three-headed monster. They wielded that running game, that effective running game, and right in line with a three-headed monster at receiver where you had 2,000-yard guys and one guy that was just off 1,000, Kenny Shaw, with like 900 and something. That is the only position, though, that running back position where I say, okay, it's probably better because it's Trey Benson, it's Toafili, but then that third guy, we don't know who that third guy is, right? Mark says recency bias. 10 years from now, see how many 2013. So, again, I'm not debating the starters. I'm talking about the depth. I don't disagree with you, nor am I calling this offense better. We won't have Jordan Travis isn't going to go number one overall. No one on the offensive line is going to be a first-round pick like Cam Irvin. Hell, the whole offensive line was drafted. You're not going to say that about this one. So draft pick for draft pick, you're absolutely right. However, our offensive line is way deeper than that one was. I'm telling you right now, had Cam Irvin or somebody, had FSU suffered an injury to Brian Stort or Trey Jackson, we would have been shit out of luck.
Come here.
We would have been in deep trouble because you can't name me anybody on the backup offensive line.
What is your cash app?
Somebody named Reuben Carter.
Cash app.
Or who? Austin Barron, who when he got his chance to actually start, how'd that look for us? So I'm not debating starter for starter because there's no debate there. However, I'm debating the depth. Again, is Jaheim Bell going to be as good as Nick O'Leary? It's possible. He's a better athlete than Nick O'Leary ever dreamed about being. Doesn't mean he's going to be a better tight end. Jaheim Bell's a better athlete than Nick O'Leary, bar none. Kyle Morlock is better than any other. Kyle Morlock would, what would he have been on the 2013 team? So that's where my argument lies. And then the receiver room, I think, is way deeper than 2013 receiving room. But that had a lot to do with how Jimbo kind of called his offense, and he relied on those three receivers quite heavily. FSU probably goes a legit Keon Coleman, Johnny, Winston, Ja'Kai, Portier. I mean, that's a legit 5 that I think will get considerable playing time at a minimum. At a minimum. Who am I missing? Somebody there, right? So if we want to compare draft picks, I'm not going to do that. I'm just telling you the depth. I think the question, or I think the conversation can be had that player for player. Put it like this: 2013, there wasn't a Julian Armella waiting in the wings in 2013. You know why? Because in 2014, they had these true freshmen, Big Rod, like halfway through the season, and move him to tackle so they can move Cam Irvin to center because the O-line just wasn't the same, right? There's not a Julian Armella. There wasn't a Julian Armella. There wasn't a Simmons waiting in the wings. There wasn't a Jalen Early waiting in the wings in 2013. And that's why after 2013, you saw the offensive line nosedive. From 2013, it definitely wasn't as good as 14, but they made some moves and got a little bit better in 14. And then after that, it went to hell. And we're just now recovering because there was nothing in the wings. I get to Chris Robinson, man. He just said, of course, my man Chris says Orlando on the check-in. As always, appreciate you, Chris, for the $10. $9.99.
Clickety clank, the money goes into my piggy bank.
Okay, Jen, we're not talking about defense. We're talking about strictly offense. We're talking about what Keon Coleman, we're talking about offense. We're talking what Keon Coleman has brought. Y'all, let's stay on topic. I'm not comparing this team to the entire 2013 team because when you get to defense, there is zero comparison on defense. That defense was tenfold deeper than the defense we're wielding now. Absolutely. Offensively, though, we have a conversation. So like I was saying, offensive line is the real kicker in this discussion, and even quarterback. Again, if Jordan Travis goes down, look, are we still talking playoffs? Hell no. But we've seen Tate be effective. You know, we think we got something in Brock Glenn and AJ Duffy in that competition, and then of course Tate Rodman. Like, I don't think we would panic. I think we would shift expectations for sure, but I don't know if there'd be a panic. Had Jameis had went down in 2013, I mean, you had Smag, and you had Coker before he transferred to Bama in 2014. I think you had J.J. Constant, and we all know about J.J. Constantino. So there's that. I'm sipping on just some vodka, bro. Nothing special tonight. I'm still gonna miss Micah, one of our toughest players. A good blocker, but as I usually say, it's like when people were telling me, "Oh, I'm gonna miss Jarvis Brownlee because he was our best tackler at DB," and you don't pay receivers to block. You don't pay DBs to tackle. It's a good skill to have. Don't get me wrong. But if I can trade Keon Coleman for Micah Pittman, you do that 10 out of 10 times. Shout out to Pittman. He's going to Utah, so good for him, right? But, you know, we got to find somebody to fill some punts. That's what I think we'll miss him the most, though I think we have more than enough players that can fill that position, hopefully. But, yeah, if you're, you know, let's face it, his best attribute, Atkins talked about it and others, was that, you know, he did the little things. He did the, you know, block and all of that, and that's awesome. But I think we'll be fine. Jason says, with the addition of Keon, will there be enough snaps for Hakeem to contribute, or you see him? He'll probably be redshirted. Now he'll get a chance if we're as good as we think we are offensively. You're talking about a team that we will finish off the likes of Boston College and Syracuse. We should finish these teams off fairly early in some of these games. Hakeem will get his opportunities. I think he'll play his 4 games, but I think ultimately they'll choose to redshirt him. There is not a demand for Hakeem Williams to play already. Hakeem Williams is not Keon Coleman right now. He's not Johnny Wilson right now. Hell, he's not Winston right now. And it's okay. It is okay. If next year you're telling me that I go from Johnny Wilson to Keon Coleman and Winston Wright, which all probably be gone after this year, and now I'm talking about Dustin Hill on one side, maybe Hakeem Vandrevius Jacobs at slot. I am very comfortable, and I'm looking good, right? I'm looking good. The biggest struggle will be getting Hakeem to not be tempted in the portal like a lot of players, right? That's the biggest issue in today's game is if you redshirt him this year, okay, cool. This time next year, there's going to be a lot of people coming after Hakeem Williams, telling him, hey man, come here. You didn't play at Florida State. We got a bunch of money like that. That's going to be your biggest challenge with guys like Hakeem, guys that you choose a redshirt. Those are going to be your biggest issues. Lucas Simmons, the Hakeem Williams, guys that have a ton of talent, ton of potential, but you don't need them this year. You're going to struggle. I won't say struggle, but you're going to have to battles in input there. You're going to have to battle to keep them on the team this time next year. Look at Joshua Farmer. And Joshua Farmer he wasn't even from a stat perspective, he wasn't that, but he was a guy who's looking at Fisk and Fabo and these other guys in front of him and teams, probably mainly Colorado, was like, man, you come here and you're going to start. You're going to have that same thing happen next year with some of our guys that you choose to redshirt. I think they will try Dustin Hill. I think they'll try a multitude of guys. VJ. It's going to be interesting to see how Coach Atkins and Coach Neville use all these weapons. I really like the fact that we will know what we are looking like after the first month. I agree with you. And I said this a long time ago. I said that we're going to know by the time we get out of the month of September, bro. We're going to know what we have. We will know the type of team we have, point blank, period. If you ask me right now, I think it's more likely FSU goes 3-1 than 4-0. But I think it's more likely that we go 4-0 than 2-2. Right now, I would predict us to split Clemson and LSU. I'm not saying who we would win or lose to. I don't know. But I would predict us to split those 2 games, even with the addition of Coleman. It doesn't kill your season in the slightest. But I would predict us to probably split those 2 games. Those are 2 good football teams. That's tough. You feel me? It just is what it is. Unless you feel in a special team, it's hard to win every game. Hard to win every game. You feel me? Georgia's a back-to-back national champion. And in that run, they're not undefeated. They went undefeated this past year, but they lost. It's hard to win every game, especially when you're playing good teams. If we somehow go 4-0, then I'm telling you, you think the hype's great now. If you go 4-0, you're not going to be able to tell this fan base. You won't be able to tell me a damn thing. Fuck, to hell with the fan base. You ain't going to be able to tell me a damn thing. You go 4-0, and one of those games being a win on the road at Clemson. Matter of fact, your 2 toughest games will be a neutral site game which will essentially be a home game, but it's still a neutral site. LSU, I'm pretty sure they're going to travel extremely well. And an away game. You think I'm supposed to worry about the rest of the schedule? yeah. Yeah. I think Hakeem is more mature than that. Well, this is what I'll tell you, Lewis. I don't disagree with you. And I don't when I do these takes, I don't try to make anything personal. People may take it personal, but it's not personal on my end. Hakeem may be more mature than that, but money starts to talk. Who at this time last year would have thought this time this year Joshua Farmer? Hell, forget this time last year. Who at the end of the season would have thought Joshua Farmer is going to hit the portal because he wants to test the waters? Nobody. Because we all thought, what? Joshua Farmer is better than that. He's a no. Yeah, the colors are great. Being a Seminole, I hate to say this, being a Florida State Seminole or being an Alabama Crimson Tide or being an LSU Tiger or a Florida Gator or a Miami Hurricane means more to the fans than it does to the players when numbers start getting thrown around. That's just the fact. The more that NIL is involved, the more this is going to be a thing. Everybody like Travis Jay's no-blooded. He's in Colorado. It just is what it is. A guy like D-Mac, he goes on all these other platforms and he does an interview with Florida State, content creators. He's in Colorado right now. So it means more to us about being garnet and gold or purple and gold or orange and green or blue and orange than it does the actual guys playing the game, because they're getting opportunities, numbers and figures thrown in their face that they've never seen before. It is what it is. It is what it is. That's the realization that I think and I want all the fans to look at. When you start saying, man, no, Hakeem would never do that. He's an old and he's more mature than that. Understand, is more to that. And that your favorite player may not be your favorite player come May, because it just is what it is. It just understand that. Don't be naive. Tell him, Ari, smash that like button, please.
Go your motherfucking ass to sleep. Whoa, shit, what the fuck good buddy hit me with? I told him I wasn't sleepy. He had to have a brick in that bitch.
Would you rather be LSU? Well, y'all know where I stand on this. I think it's all about Clemson. It's all about Clemson. You can lose to LSU, and if you win the rest of your games, you're in the playoffs. You could beat LSU, lose to Clemson the first time, but now you're putting yourself at a disadvantage because now you have to hope that a team like Louisville, who has an extremely easy ACC schedule, doesn't run the table, at least in the ACC. Probably not. They won't be undefeated. But Louisville found a way where, they dodged Florida State and Clemson this year. Hell, I think they may have dodged North Carolina too. I don't know. I know they don't play all the tough teams in the ACC. Louisville they got a good hand. They got a good hand. I don't want to lose to Clemson. Theoretically, you can lose to Clemson the first time and get them back the second time, but now you're hoping, now you've taken it out of your hands, and now you have to hope that other teams lose so you can get that second spot in the ACC championship. It's all about beating Clemson for me. If you can lose to LSU, bro, and that's going to be a top 5 battle. If I don't know if y'all have paid attention to LSU and what they've been doing in the transfer portal, LSU has been you think we're doing transfer portal stuff? LSU's been loading up on players as well, running backs, DBs. They're doing the same stuff we're doing. It's going to be a war in Orlando. Calling it right now, man. The battle in Disney. The tussle, the tussle of Universal, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Orlando's going to be a war. You can lose that game, especially if as long as you don't get embarrassed. You lose a competitive game, that game don't hurt you in the slightest. but you better take care of the ACC. The ACC is weak. Outside of Clemson, what you got? You do got Drake May, but that's not a great team around Drake May. That team is Drake May or bust. What outside of Clemson, what you got? Beat Clemson. It's all about Clemson for me. It's been like that since November of last year. I was saying that when we were looking for it. It's all about Clemson. You can make the case of LSU. LSU don't hurt you. That loss doesn't hurt you. It is about Clemson, period. If you lose to Clemson, now you take it out your hands. You have to hope other teams lose. And then even if other teams do lose and you get a second crack at Clemson, that's still that mental roadblock that's there. You can beat LSU, beat Clemson, lose to Clemson in the ACC championship game, and still get in the playoffs, in my opinion. Because you just saw TCU do it when they lost to Kansas State in their conference championship game. You got to beat Clemson. You have to beat Clemson. Just scrolling down a little bit, man. Our next RA said, man, Trapper J hurt me a little bit. Thought he was going to tough it out. And that's my point, though. You feel me? Guys that we have faith in these guys and know they love to be Noles. And I think deep down, they do love their university. But if Dion going to call you and tell you, oh, by the way, you're going to come here. You're probably going to start where you were going to be a rotation piece here. Oh, and we'll put a little bit of bread in your pocket. You're going to take your chances at Colorado. Jeffrey Bell says facts, 100%. Montre says real talk. I'm not going to get into Colorado tonight because I don't want to – believe me, they're lurking. But we can do Colorado another time. I might get Jerg on here and we can talk some Colorado. Shout out to Jeff. He says, the thing we know every game we play, including Clemson, we have the better quarterback. Vontae says it's facts because if we beat Clemson and Louisville goes undefeated, then Louisville's in there. FSU by 17. UNC defense is trash. I agree with that. Don't sleep on Duke. I got Duke beating Clemson week 1. Heck no. Now, I think Duke is going to be a well-coached football team. I do not think Duke has the horses to beat Clemson in a week 1 matchup. That's just me personally. I do think Duke is a well-coached football team, but at a certain point, you have to have the horses to beat Clemson. Clemson's not Miami, which is a fragile JV peon mindset of a football team down there where the smallest things get them excited only for them to be slapped back to reality, right? This isn't Miami we're talking about Clemson. They've been playing big boy football for the last decade. They understand who and what they are. Clemson ain't losing to – I don't see that. I don't see Clemson losing to Duke. I'm not even going to pretend. Even though I would love to agree with you, Marcus, can't even do it. Tell them again, Top. Hit that like button. And then Jen says, I heard week 4 Clemson is being predicted to be a college game day. That would be awesome. It should be. If we can beat LSU, even if we lose to LSU, I think, and you guys kind of know me, right? I don't really care too much about preseason rankings. They don't really mean much to me. But the reality is Florida State will probably be they'll be a top 10 football team. LSU is probably going to be a top 5 football team. If you lose to LSU 38-41 in a barn burner, to quote the good old JR, bro, you're not falling that far. What you're fall from 10 to 12 to 30, you're not gonna fall far. You're not gonna fall far. And then you have 2 more games, There's a good chance Clemson and Florida State is still a top 15 matchup. Could be a college game day. Absolutely could be. QB play is why we beat both Clemson and LSU, but drop one like Pitt on the. That's a great point by Josh. Now, if we go 4-4, so You bring up a great point. Pitt is the game that I worry about. That's the only game I worry about down the stretch. Because it's right before Miami. Pitt is always well coached. Though I don't worry so much about their quarterback because we've handled him the last couple of years. Pitt somehow always has a defensive lineman. They always have a decent running back and some guys. Pitt's the game I worry about. And I believe that's an away game, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Pitt's the game I worry about. But if you want to be that team, you can't drop a game like Pitt. And this is why I initially said my initial prediction for the season, and I usually wait to do these, but as of May, my first prediction, I thought we would go 10-2 regular season. I thought we would split Clemson and LSU. We'd win one of the two, and I thought we'd drop Pitt. I thought we would drop Pitt. That was before Keon Coleman. Do I think Keon Coleman's worth a game? I think Keon Coleman's worth a game like Pitt. I think Pitt's one of those games where I could just see everything going wrong. Pitt might be a well-coached team. I don't know if Pitt can deal with Johnny and Keon Coleman and then Winston Wright and then Jaheim. By that time in November, I believe that game is in November, early November, that offense should be clicking at a pace that I'm no longer that worried about Pitt. So 11-1 for me. You just heard it. An 11-1 regular season is what I'm thinking right now. And it's not over because FSU still has a chance to add some guys. But right now, I go 11-1. I think Keon Coleman erases the Pitt doubt that was in my mind personally, because Pitt don't have the defensive horses in the back end to cover all of that. Before Coleman, I could foresee a game where Johnny's just dropping stuff because he has that tendency. We've seen that tendency for him where he can just start dropping some passes. I could foresee a game where Johnny's just off. And maybe the O-line's having some struggle, so they don't have time to get Jaheim Bell and I can see a game where just the offense struggles. I don't see that now. Not with the addition of Coleman, because even if Johnny's off, what's the chances that both of your receivers of that caliber are going to have a bad day? That's where I am with that. As I said, asked earlier, if we boost the top defensive line, should me and you cut? Well, first of all, Odell doesn't coach the whole D-line. What has always been my criticism of Odell. So until Odell gets back to this, I'm not cutting Odell any slack. I've been very firm on my position of Odell. He can develop the position still, and it's proof with the Joshua Farmer and what we think we're going to get out of Daniel Lyons, and some of these guys. Like Fabian Lovett has been developed by Odell Haggins. That is proof. I will not deny proof. Name me the elite guys he's recruiting. That has been my stance for the last 3 years on Odell. And in those 3 years, who has Florida State recruited that are day one impact lines at defensive line? And I'm not talking to edge guys because JP recruits those guys. You got KJ Sampson coming in this year. He's a 4-star. I think he's a good player. Is he a day one impact guy? Tafasi looks like he's going to be a good player. Was he a day one impact guy? I know he had to sit out last year. He wasn't ready last year. Don't kid yourself. Don't kid yourself. Even if he's going to be good in the future. My stance on Odell stays the same. When we get back to recruiting the likes of Jordan Hall, who we just missed out on last year's class, I'm not saying we just missed out on, but when we get back to recruiting guys of that caliber, the Eddie Goldmans, the Timmy Jernigans, then I will ease up. I honestly haven't talked bad about Odell, but you asked the question. That's been my stance on Odell from the jump, and I stand on that. He doesn't recruit the way he used to recruit. Point blank. And I don't know if there's any guys he's recruiting in this class that would be the type of guys I'm talking about. So if we're just recruiting a bunch of 3-stars that it takes about 2 or 3 years to develop, then so be it. So be it. But that's kind of where we're at here. Doesn't mean he can't develop the position. But yeah. Raymond James was good. Oh, there's always a chance, VJ. VJ says, with the preseason is a hype. Heisman campaign. Any chance the bright lights are a little too much for Coach Norvell and Trav? Still a chance. I'm gonna be real with you. I have less concern about Travis, and I'm gonna say this, and the Norvell fans is gonna. What do you mean? I have less concern about Jordan Travis than I have of Mike Norvell. And I'm only saying this because you asked the question. If you ask me, who would the bright lights affect more, Norvell or Travis? I believe they would affect Norvell more than Travis. Travis has seen a lot in his career. I think Travis is at a point now. If you just look at the way Travis carries himself and his demeanor, I'm not worried about that guy. Last year was critical for Mike. You can make the case that Mike is still. There's still some people. Mike is still under a microscope because now he has to prove that last year wasn't some anomaly, because we've seen it. We see Dan Mullen at Florida have that great. It was a COVID year, but a COVID year where they played for the SEC championship. But that was an anomaly. We saw the Manny Diaz, something similar, where he had the COVID year, and then they bottomed out the next year. We saw Mark Richt at Miami had that 10-win season, and what happened after that. So you see these one-offs, and you have to ask yourself, is that just that, a one-off? I think Mike Norvell is still facing a little bit of that, and he has to prove to some people. He probably has to prove. Mike probably wants to prove to himself that last year wasn't just a one-time deal. And in the key moment of LSU, maybe we don't call a direct snap to the running back in that position. Maybe we just do a classic handoff. If you tell me that we fumble a handoff, then damn it, that's just what it is. But if we start getting cute and throwing toss plays and direct snaps, then we start saying, well, why is the coach feeling the pressure because he's getting too cute in crucial key situations? I think those are all questions that still remain to be answered. Doesn't mean I don't believe in Mike, and I know how that. I already know the comments that come after everything I just said. But I think if you ask me, I worry more about Norvell than I do about Jordan Travis. Mm-hmm. Who recruited Fisk? That's a great question. I don't know. He's a transfer portal guy. I guess my guess would be somebody know the question of that. He said it in his interview. Fisk did. He mentioned Odell, but he mentioned some other guys. If you want to use Braden Fisk as the counter argument to me saying my Odell hasn't recruited any 5-stars, I don't know if that's a great rebuttal. But you can use it if you want. We ain't missed too much, man. We just talking offense. And how good is this offense going to be? Developing's amazing. Let me put it to you like this. You have to be able to do both. Some guys, I'm not going to say don't need development, but some guys can do on-the-job training because they're just that naturally gifted. Some guys need that classroom training. They need that redshirt year because they got to get physically ready. But they have the potential, but they got to be physically ready. I think you need a healthy mix of both. For instance, if Fate, you guys don't, you may do understand, but I'm trying to answer this the best way I can. If Fabo had left and you don't get Fisk and you don't get Jackson out of the portal and Fabo had left, I want you to look at what your defensive line would be right now. You'd be counting on a redshirt sophomore in Joshua Farmer who needed that year of development. and really didn't click to the back half of last year because he was terrible in Louisville in some of those early games. Didn't click to the back half of last year. You'd be counting on Daniel Lyons, redshirt, a Malcolm Ray who has been inconsistent at best. Same thing with the Dennis Briggs. You would have counted on guys that needed those. Where's the plug and play guy? You don't have a plug and play guy because you can't recruit them because you have to develop guys for 2 or 3 years. But when Fabo comes back and you get Jackson and you get Fisk, well, Daniel Lyons don't have to do. There's not a bunch of weight on Daniel Lyons. So by the time Daniel Lyons hits the field, he gonna be ready. Just like with Joshua Farmer, Joshua Farmer kind of had to hit the field a little earlier because Fabo got hurt. But by the time the the Daniel Lyons and some of these guys get on the field, Tafasi, they're going to be ready. They're going to be ready because there's not a lot being demanded of them. And that's okay. That's okay. But it's also good to mix those development guys with a guy, man, that I can just throw in there. And he can learn on the job because he's naturally gifted. Physically, he can just hold up. And we used to recruit that. We don't anymore. And, but I'm with you. Like, development is incredible, but it takes time. Development takes time. That's a long, drawn-out answer, I know, and I may have lost some of y'all, but, hey, it is what it is. If we meet expectations, not natty, but win the ACC and the Orange Bowl, or maybe make a playoff, where does JT rank among the FSU QBs? Let me finish the rest of these comments, Tyler, and I'm going to come back to this question. I have us going 12-0. I feel you, VJ. Odell need to retire. Should an old nation be worried about certain recruiting ability? I don't think, bro. It is May. There's a whole. If he signs Lester and a couple other, right now, who's in your DB room right now? CJ Hurd. So if you sign CJ Hurd, Lester, and I know they're targeting some other DBs, and let's say you get CJ Hurd, Lester, who's a 5-star, and 2 4-stars. What's the other question? SEC or Big Ten? It's Big Ten. Odell just waiting to hit the money mark that he told himself he has to hit before announcing retirement. If you get rid of Odell, I got to be an ace. I agree with you there. This is why I'm not asking for Odell again. That's why I don't really get on Odell. I think he can do better at certain parts? Sure. But I'm not going to call for his firing because if you're going to fire him, you got to be who you hire has to be. You can't fire Odell Higgins. Florida State Nation would be in an uproar. And then you can't fire him. You got to get a guy who's going to recruit at a clip and then also develop those players. So you're basically going to have to hire the best defensive line coach out there. Can you do that? If not, you're better off keeping what you got. Fuller recruited Sliz, Fish, Travis says. Odell definitely ain't Venables. Oh, well, he's shown that. And in today's game and age with analytics, that has been – it's not just a Mike thing. You're on your own side. If you're in that, what you call the no man's land of especially when Fitzgerald is your place kicker, your field goal kicker, when you're between, that 40 and that 50, or that 35 and that 50-yard line, where you're a little bit too far for a field goal and a punt does nothing for you, Mike's going to go for it wholeheartedly. Thank you, VJ. Now let's get back to Tyler's question, man. Tyler asked a great question. Tyler says, and I repeat, if we meet expectations, not a natty, but win the ACC and a New Year's Six Bowl, He said Orange Bowl, but we'll just go New Year's 6. Maybe make a playoff. Where does JT rank amongst FSU QBs? I want you all to answer that before I dig into this one. I want y'all to answer that. Where would Jordan Travis, the criteria that Tyler has put out, he accomplishes these things. Where does JT rank for y'all? I'm going to give y'all a little bit to answer that. It's a solid question. Fourth, probably top 6. He needs a natty to be there. Top 3, top 5. So yeah, off topic. Well, let me get. I'll get to that. Rough Rider. Give me a sec. Okay, so let's do this. This criteria that's set out, he can't be top 3 because look, my top 3 are all Heisman winning national championship quarterbacks. So that has to account for something. Now, I know the Heisman can be a political award, whatever. But natty winners, I believe in sports, winning is everything. That's my opinion, right? Winning is everything. Stats are, some people look at the stat. Winning is everything. And if there's one position on a football field that gets a majority of the blame and credit for winning, it's quarterback. Jordan Travis doesn't win a natty. He ain't top 3. But if you're talking about where he's came from to where he is, and obviously the stats will play a part in this debate as well. But if he wins the ACC, wins a New Year's 6, maybe even makes a playoff with this roster. If he makes a playoff, that's different than the New Year's 6. Let me separate those two. Playoff is different. Playoff is a different argument. New Year's 6, ACC puts him in the 5. I probably would put him top 4 because my argument for Jordan Travis would be his surrounding talent, offensively and defensively. Does the 2023 FSU team stack up to any of the teams in the 90s? Probably not. And any team from 09 to 14? Probably not. Right? So that's where I sit with it. I'm going to say this. If Jordan Travis was able to get to the playoff and get an invite to New York, I'd have a real conversation. And I know I just said winning means a lot to me. I'd have a real conversation about him and Winky. He's not in Ward or Winston He's not in Ward and Winston conversation. I'd have a real conversation about him and Winky. Honestly. If this team could somehow make a playoff and he get to New York, maybe not win the Heisman, but get there. But have this Florida State team in a playoff against Ohio State or USC or hell, Georgia, whoever. No one would have said this 2 years ago. To go from 5-7 to 2 years later being in a playoff with an opportunity to play for a national championship, don't let them win it. Don't let Jordan Travis win it. Don't let Florida State win the national championship this year because we're going to have a real conversation. We're going to have a real conversation about where he is. We're going to have a real conversation about where he falls on the pantheon of Florida State quarterbacks if this football team was to somehow win a national championship. And I know we started this stream off with talking about how this team may be deeper. But, man, it ain't this. We're going to have a real conversation about it. And I'm talking Winston Ward. I'm talking about all them guys. If he was to win a national championship with this football team, with this transfer portal built football team that everybody says. No knock on Deloach. I love Kalen Deloach. Where does Kalen Deloach rank as an FSU linebacker? Is 93 you had Derek Brooks and Marvin Jones? Where's Kalen Deloach in that conversation? 99, who's your linebackers there? I forget. Somebody help me out. Is Kalen Deloach playing linebacker on the 99 national championship team? As great as Jeffers is he a defensive end on the previous national championship teams? So when you stack it up against the other national championship teams that we're talking about, Jordan Travis was able to win a natty with this team. Ooh. There's a conversation, bro. There's a conversation. If you put Travis on that Winky team, we win a title. If you put Winky on these teams JT had to play with, and that's why I said if he's able to get to the playoff, if we make the playoff and he can get an invite to New York, he don't have to get to New York. I mean, he don't have to win the Heisman. But if he gets that invite and we make a playoff, we're going to have a conversation about Winky and Travis. I think that's a legit conversation. I really do. If you have EJ Manuel on your list, look, man, shout out to EJ. Y'all know how I feel about EJ. I'm not the biggest EJ fan. Just me, though. Just me. JT Jameis. Boy, you've lost your mind. I'll be honest with you, man. Here, you got to give you get EJ credit because I think he won all his bowl games. But none of those bowl games, except what his last one, were really like that big. And I think a couple of those bowl games he was actually coming in as a backup, but whatever. Is there a moment? And I'll say this when we talk about EJ versus JT right now. Again, I want you to look at the talent EJ played with and the talent that Travis played with. EJ ever have a Florida moment where's EJ's Miami moment 2 years ago when we're down on that final drive in 4th and 14 where Travis made great pass to Ja'Kai, great pass to Parchment before getting it in the end zone. Where's the Florida moment where Jordan Travis just took over last year's game? Does EJ have any of those moments? I could be wrong. Please answer. I don't know. I just said if he wins a natty, again, we're going to have a real conversation about Jordan Travis if he wins a national championship with this team. I'm talking, when I say conversation, we're going to have, is he 1 or 2? Like, we're going to have a legit conversation about him. Honestly, with the talent he has around him and also what he would have done with this team, if he makes a playoff, he's 4th for me. He wins a natty, and damn, you might be looking at number 1. If he makes the playoff, I would put him. And again, we're going to have a conversation about him and Winky if he makes the playoff. Exactly. That's my point. I like Deloach too, but Deloach don't play on none of these other national championship teams is my point. The Bethune doesn't play on none of these other national championship teams. Verse is probably in the rotation, but he ain't a starter. Pat is a guy who's still on the bench and going to be a guy in the future, but Pat would still be developing on the bench on some of these other national championship teams in the depth we've had. Hell, Pat wouldn't have played on the 2012 team when you had Bjorn Warner and Tank Carradine. And no, let's not even get in the secondary because Ronaldo Green ain't cracking the secondary on none of the national championship teams. Damn sure not 2013. That's kind of my point, though. JT gets to the point where we're talking playoff and national championship. Come on. All EJ did at Tallahassee was sleep with people. Man, watch out. Okay, EJ had his moment against Clemson in 12. Was that EJ or? I got to go back and watch it, to be honest with you. I remember the game y'all talking about, but I go back and watch and play. Oh, Wanda, I be live at least once a week now. Off season, we do one live a week about. You're starting verse over Mario Edwards. You sure? That's interesting. What do y'all agree with Lewis on that? Y'all starting verse over Mario Edwards? My all-time favorite no player is that guy you see on the wall right there. What do you think Jameis could do with these weapons? I think Jameis would flourish with these weapons. Oh, these weapons aren't too far off from what he already had. What separates, again, and we have to see how the offense actually looks, because as much credit as we give the talent, you got to remember how much in his bag Jimbo was that year in 2013. Jimbo was on top of his game as a play caller that year. And he could be, because he had the talent to do what he wanted to do, when he wanted to do it, and how he wanted to do it. So now we're talking about Mario. Y'all got me talking about Mario Edwards. We're talking about Norvell coming into his own as a play caller, which I think Norvell is a very good play caller. I think he showed that last year. Now you got to take that. If you were talking about Natty, now you got to take that next step. And where do we produce as an offense? The talent is there, though, for Jameis Winston. I don't know if there's a offensive lineman that is a Brian Stewart. Probably not. And we probably don't have a Cam Irvin. So the talent, the overall talent level on the O-line probably isn't there. But it's deeper. Wide receiver, I mean, you got maybe the one of the top two wide receivers of all time at Florida State on 2013. Can't take that away. But as a whole, the wide receiver room is probably deeper. Your tight end room is definitely deeper. Offensively, Jameis would do wonders. Defensively is where 2013 separates itself for sure. But Jameis would have a fun time with this offense. If that's the case, we can't make it to the championship now because those are our players currently. So you don't think this team has a shot? If you ask me right now, a shot? Sure. It's May. Everybody's got a shot at the title. Everybody's got a shot. Your last comment. I probably didn't see your last comment. I'm not sure. Just put it in the comment section again because I didn't see it. I'm not going to scroll all the way back up. Rough Rider. Josh Kando over Pat. Can't say that. For one, Kando was never healthy enough. The best ability is availability. Can't say Kando over Pat. Though he's might be more physically gifted than Pat was. I can't say Kando over Pat just from an availability standpoint. And then Kando's best year. I'm going to look that up. I'm going to look that up right now because now you have me a little curious. Josh Kando. Josh Kando, FSU. I want to look up what was Josh Kando's best stats at Florida State. Boom, 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 boom. Let's see if I can find it. Kano played in 31 games and had 8 sacks. Pat had 5 in his first year playing. That's why I say I can't pick Kano. I can't pick Kano over Pat for the production's not there for me. Pat's played 1 year. Kando, see, I can't find his college stats. I can find his Kansas City. I can find what he did at Kansas City. I can't find what he did. Florida State. That sucks. Let's try this. Let's try this. In 2020, he had 14 tackles and 3 tackles for loss. Played only 7 games. And he left the team after that. So, I mean, is that his most productive year? Like, I can't do Kendo over Pat. Sorry. I remember Brandon Jenkins. I already said my prediction was 10-2. Now I'm leaning towards 11-1. Notre Dame screwed Kendo. Should we put Brock Glenn or AJ Duffy in an easy winnable game to start just to see how? No, hell no. That's not how you develop that position, bro. That is idiotic. That's going back to Kenny Dillingham and Jacksonville State, where we're playing quarterback tag, playing games against Jacksonville State, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a game that you have no business being in. You don't play like that. You don't play games. You go out there and you put 35 points up in the first half, and then you let the backup quarterback come in and do what they got to do. You don't play games. You don't all of a sudden find yourself in a game where you're in the fourth quarter against a team you have no business being in the fourth quarter with. No, you don't. That's how you get upset, by taking teams lightly. You don't play that game. Don't play that game. When's the last time you saw Nick Saban or Kirby Smart or one of these guys starting to back up QB just because, right? No, it's that's not how you that's not how you do things. Absolutely not. Unless you want to get fired. If Mike Norvell wants to get fired, then you do that. By all means, if you want to get fired, you do that. And yeah, see what FSU see what the fan base has to say about that. But no, you don't play that game. You don't play that game. So yeah, like I was saying, man, that you're talking about an offense, man, that I think might get us a game. Where I originally was at that 10-2, I'm looking at 11-1. I still don't know. It's not impossible. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I don't know for a team that can just run the table. Because I don't know if our defense is, that defense. I don't know if our defense is that defense yet. We'll see. And it is going to depend on if guys emerge. Like we were talking about earlier. It's going to depend on the Byron Turner, the Dante Anderson emergence. It's going to depend on if Omar Graham actually can be a legit rotational player. Can a Blake Nicholson emerge out of nowhere? Those things are going to matter. Does a third safety emerge? Does some of the starters kind of pick their game up? How good or how much better can Nakeem Dent get? We haven't seen Shaheem Brown actually start football games consistently. Can he go from just being a very effective rotational safety to actually filling in and replacing Jamie Robinson? These are legit questions in that defense that we have that we don't have answers to yet. Doesn't mean they can't get answered, but I have those questions. And because I have those questions, I was originally going 10-2. I think Coleman gives you an edge in maybe one of those 2 games I thought we could lose, but I still feel like you play enough You play LSU, you play Clemson. You still got your rivals, though I don't think either one of those teams have a necessarily good year. You still gonna play some teams that it's hard for me to just go, oh man, we're going 12-0 and we're going to the ACC championship, and then we're gonna go to the play. Like, we're not there. I'm just being honest with you. I'm not there yet. Don't know if I'll get there. But a 10-2, 11-1 season is what I foresee. Yeah. At worst, Florida State should be what they were last year, 9-3. At worst. And for the most part, I kind of agree with this. Though again, that Pitt game still rings in my mind. But I will, for the most part, agree. If you go 4-0, by the time you play Pitt, you're probably clicking on all cylinders. That I'm not too much worried about Pitt at that point. It would take a coaching lapse. It would just take a in the last part of the year where you should be playing your best ball. It would take a mental lapse on all levels, from coaching to players to everything, to lose a game down the stretch, I think. Especially if you're not talking Miami or Florida, which rivalries, anything happen. We kind of know that. But outside of those two games, it would be a blunder. Sean says 9-3. Again, that's worst case scenario. I wouldn't be mad at a 9-3 season. Look, I understand it takes time to build these things. I would not be upset with a 9-3 season personally. My question for John is Miami going 9-3? Would y'all clown Florida State for going 9-3? How many 9-win seasons does Miami have in the last 20 years? If Florida State could string together 2 back-to-back 9-win seasons, again, that's not a negative in my opinion. Right, and that's my point, Tyler. That's why I say, like, we say 12-0 like this is an easy accomplishment. We've seen more talented teams drop games. We saw 2012 lose to NC State in an unforgivable, shouldn't have happened. But we've seen talented teams lose games. It happens. And that NC State team wasn't some, bro. Glennon was the quarterback of that freaking team. You feel me? So that when I say the things I say it based off stuff like Tyler's talking about. Like, I have that perspective of I've seen talent teams lose less. I saw a Clemson team lose to, was it Syracuse? And still go on and win a national championship. Because shit happens. Things happen, and it's hard to run the table. So that's why I am not 10-2, 11-1 is where I'm at. I am not on the undefeated because it is hard to run the table. As much as we're talking Pitt, Wake Forest is still a hurdle that this Mike Norvell team needs to conquer. They have not been able to beat Wake Forest. That is still a hurdle that has to be jumped. So there are still mental hurdles that Mike Norvell and Florida State have to overcome. So to just blindly say, oh, man, we're 12-0 and I don't see any bro, talented teams have lost to less. It happens. Georgia found themselves in a game last year with Kent State? Come on. These things happen. In terms of having a shot, I think our ceiling is somewhat of a mystery with the transfers that came in. If we start 4-0, the bar has to be playoffs. We'll know a lot by October. I see 10-2. Split Clemson, LSU, upset loss, Pitt, Duke, Wake. Yeah, I mean, those are the teams. Duke, I would like to continue to say that we've never lost to Duke, so I always kind of dismiss Duke. But I do admit Duke is a well-coached football team. Elko's coming. But Wake, like I just was saying, Wake's a hurdle that we have to overcome in Pitt. So I'm with you. I'm with you, Cool Breeze. I don't disagree with you at all. That probably happened in Miami. LSU, Clemson, and so we're gonna lose the LSU and Clemson, and then either UF or UM. I don't know if you put much thought in that prediction, John. UF a 4-win team. Miami maybe 7 or 8. We ain't losing either of those games. Clemson is dropping 3 this year. Doubtful we lose a game either. Just stop. UF I get, but Miami, I don't get UF. I think UF's worse than Miami, Mr. Wolf. I'm just being honest with you. I think, first of all, Miami is going to be, I'm going to predict this as a Florida State fan. It's going to, whatever. Miami's going to be fool's gold this year. What does that mean? I expect in year 2, I do expect Miami to be yet better under Mario Cristobal. That should be the natural progression. Miami's schedule is cupcake. What is the hardest game Miami has? Florida State? Or do y'all play Clemson? I don't know if Miami plays Clemson or not. I know, obviously, they play us. And I know they play Texas A&M. I don't know the rest of that schedule. They're going to have a fool's gold type of season. Like Briley just said, they'll win 7 or 8 games. But that's because they don't play good teams. A&M has to prove just as much as Miami. So that game is a toss-up at this point. And if they do play Clemson, Florida State and Clemson are the 2 toughest teams they play, and everybody else should be, again, less talented than them and should be a win. Miami will be fool's gold, so I think they'll make a bowl game and could win 7 or 8 teams, but if you were to stack them against premier teams, I think they would, again, let you down. But Florida, that team is going to struggle. That team is going to struggle. Florida, I think, is going to be a bad team. I think Florida is going to be a bad team. I really do. Dangbay says 9-3 is unacceptable for FSU this year. If this was a normal year, I might agree with you. And when I say normal year, if this was a sustained level of success, I would have an agreement. We are forgetting, man. Mike is 2 years removed from a 5-7 season, 3 years removed from a 3-6. That was a COVID year. So we give that year an asterisk, and I think it deserves an asterisk. But he did go 5-7 the second year. He has had a lot of turnover, roster turnover. I don't know. Maybe I've wised up. I'm not so much into I think it was Insane Mob. Shout out Insane if you're in here. I'm not in so much the microwaving this thing. Maybe that's just a different take than I usually have. They're going to show me a lot. I thought last year was a make or break year, and he made himself. What he has now, there's just a new level. There's a new bar and a new level of expectations, whether we like it or not. That's what happens when you begin to become a good to great coach / player, whatever, or in any profession. There's the expectations here. And once you meet and it sees that, well, then now the expectation is here. And now Mike Norvell is facing an expectation of, okay, you did this. Can you sustain it? And can you take good to great? Can you take pretty good to, hold on, we're going to actually start competing for some awards and some rings here. And that's where I want to see. And I don't know if we're there yet, but I want to see it. I guess those first 4 games, man, are going to tell me, because there's a lot of expectation. The hype is real, and it ain't just coming from us in this fan base, where the fan base becomes an echo chamber. You just talk to yourself. You preach to the choir. Of course we're hyped and excited, but the national media's picking up on it. I'm watching other channels, other content creators who are supposed to cover all of college football, and they talk more about Florida State than they talk about Bama, Georgia, and Georgia's the freaking 2-time defending national champ. And I'm seeing more Florida State coverage than I'm seeing Bama and Georgia and Ohio State. The hype's real. I got to see how they respond to it. And Humans are humans, and people start feeling themselves. Is the hunger there? I guess was what I'm getting at. I want to know if Mike's got the dog in him. I think he does, but I want to see it, and that's all I'm saying. I want to see it. Defense is never overrated, Panama Jack. Don't do it. Don't let the hype fool you. Let me put it to you like this. You can talk about UGA and Ohio State all you want. That game was a shootout. Who ended up winning that game? The team that made stops. Defense wins championships, whether you want to try to downplay it or not. Who ended up winning the game? The team that ended up making stops. Marvin Harrison Jr. had a little bit to do with that and him getting hurt. But the team that was able to make stops won the game. And national championship, TCU couldn't do anything because defense still wins you championships, y'all. Don't get it twisted. I don't think Wake will be the same Wake either. That doesn't mean it's not a hurdle to climb. I'm just scrolling through the comments, y'all trying to catch up. Man, pretty no girl. I ain't seen you here in a hot minute. How you been? I don't think I'm way too overconfident. I think I'm being pretty level-headed. Actually. I actually think I'm being pretty level-headed here. It's catching up in the comments. I went to the spring game. And honestly, we do have some work. But I mean, what team doesn't? Who has new players coming and leaving? Yeah, of course we need work. Everybody needs work. Field goals are suspect until we actually see Fitz sink them. I can't trust him. Man, I hope we ruin that mesh by Wake. They always do. They should just blitz 7, 1 attacking downhill, the running back, and the rest to QB. What up, Damian? 9-3 would definitely be a disappointment. It would be no more than 2 losses for the entire season. I mean, like I said, 9-3 at worst. But I can understand how you look at 9-3 and go, we didn't do what we set out to do. But like I said, man, like I've been saying, shit happens. And it's just hard for me to predict undefeated because that's hard to do. That's extreme. That's hard to do. The good thing about undefeated, or what works in our favor, you play your 2 toughest games early in the year. After that, you got, it is what it is after that. After those 2 games, you're not going to face a team on your schedule that's more talented than you at all. Florida's not more talented than you. Miami's not more talented than you. None of those teams are. None of them. So it's all once you get past Clemson and LSU, if you can get past Clemson and LSU, then it just becomes, do you beat yourself? Do you show up to a game? Again, and this is where I say I want to see the dog. I want to see where we're at mentally. Do I have a coach? Do I have players? Because it's not all on the coach. Do I have players that are willing to step on the neck and break it? Where are we at as a team mentally that we don't take any game lying, like we just don't go in there like if we already. And I'm curious about that. I'm curious to know, do we have those type of guys from the top to the bottom? So that's where I'm at with it. Clemson lost some D linemen to this year's NFL draft. Millie keeps laughing. He ain't saying nothing of substance. He just keeps snickering. Don't know what he got going on over there. Somebody must have told him a joke. And then Jen says, we need to stay healthy. I think defensively, yeah. Defensively, you got to stay healthy. Offensively, I actually think you can afford a couple injuries offensively and still be in pretty good shape. RD says overconfident. FSU returns 80%, upgraded in the portal, better schedule, and a new ACC championship format. I don't think we're overconfident. I think people that are saying natty or bust are being ridiculous, though. Again, I don't think we are we're not a national championship team, in my opinion. So I don't know. I don't think we're natty or bust, but I don't think we're overconfident. I think there's a reasonable level of expectation. Again, this isn't some delusional COVID year. The reason why I think Hurricane Millie's laughing is because the last good team they had was the COVID team. And so they went to the next year following COVID and thought that because they returned Bolden and De'Aaron King and all these guys, that they were actually going to be good that following year. Well, they didn't take into account that the COVID year was a complete and absolutely anomaly on so many different levels. I mean, Michigan was terrible that year. Every year since the COVID year, Michigan has been in the playoff. Do you think that is by coincidence? No, it's not by coincidence that Michigan's been in the playoff every year since the COVID year. COVID year was a weird year that didn't mean anything. Ohio State played 6 total games and went to the college football playoff. Why? Because they needed to sell viewership and tickets, not because Ohio State deserved it. I think Mario Cristobal at Oregon was like 4-3 and won the Pac-12 at 4-3, and we act like COVID year was a weird year. Miami thought their best team was that team coming out of the COVID year, and they were exposed week 1 against Bama and never recovered. And then they realized we are trash. And so what Miami's doing is they're snickering and giggling because they think that was last year was our COVID year. The difference is we actually played real football last year. That's the biggest difference. Is it wasn't a COVID schedule, wasn't some weird deal. We actually lined up and played real football and went 9-3. Just like they lined up and played real football and got their doors blown off by Middle Tennessee. Like, these things happen. Shit happens, but who are we to think we need to stop getting upset by less talent teams? To me, that's why we should lose more than 2. Kid from Cali reminds me of Kurt Caruthers. Briley, what's the score of the Heat game? 13-9. Heat up. 6 minutes in the 6 minutes left in the first, and your boy just hit a 3, so it's 16-9. This is actually very PG for Miami, Antoine. So what you're seeing from Millie and John, this is nothing. Most of the Miami fans that's usually in here, they are hiding in a corner. This has been the most tame offseason I've ever seen from the fan base, to be honest with you. Like, Hurricane Millie can't really say anything, but he can just laugh. But he can't really make a point because nothing I've said is wrong, so he can just laugh. You know, same thing with John. John hasn't really made a point in this show, but he's given his opinion, right? And your opinion's always valid, and it's always welcome. You're free to give it. Usually this time of the year, you have Miami fans in the chat talking about all the lies that they usually tell. I get about 2 Miami fans a show now. They don't really even show up anymore. They have been humbled. 45-3 humbled that ass. I don't know if we humbled them, Duke humbled them, or Middle Tennessee State humbled them. But when you get 45 on your head repeatedly, you tend to come into the next season with your head bowed, saying, you know what? I'm probably not in a position to talk to anybody or about anybody. Oh, I forgot Pitt. Pitt also hung 45 on your noggin. So there you go. starting in 2024 when they go to a 12 team. I will say this, Jen, and starting in 2024 when we go to 12 team, Florida State that probably should never not be in the playoff. If we're going in the direction we think 12 teams like this past year, Florida State would have had a great argument to make that that 12 team playoff. 12 teams, and that doesn't mean the top 12 ranked teams, but 12 teams in the playoff. I think Florida State might have made it this past year. I think going forward, you probably should never miss the playoffs if we're being honest. We're doing what y'all did all those years. Stay quiet. But that's new for y'all, though. That's not new. Like, we didn't have delusions of grandeur. We knew we were bad. We knew we were bad, bro. We knew we were bad under Willie. And we knew we were bad in 2020 and 2021. It wasn't these delusions of, 10 games or anything like that. So who brags about a potentially 6-win football team? Nobody in their right mind. What I'm saying is I'm happy that y'all are finally realizing y'all are bad. It just took you 20 years to realize, you know what? We actually suck. That's all I'm saying. And so now y'all have had a piece of the humble pie, and here you are. I'm because this time last year, I wish I could pull the receipts. I'm not going to do it. Go watch a stream from this time last year. Any stream for that matter. Not even here. Go watch any Miami stream from this time last year and see what they were saying. I respect that, John. Finally, y'all have decided that the Kool-Aid sucks over there. And I'm not drinking it anymore. I respect that, bro. I respect that. I just don't know why it took y'all 20 years to realize that maybe you should be quiet in May. That's all I'm saying. Honestly, if no teams will be able to cover all of our super tall receivers, then I don't see why we should lose a single game. Well, that's because there's more than just big receivers to win football games, Char. But hey, y'all doing exactly. But see, we actually have tangible evidence that we're going to be a good football team. Y'all thought y'all were going to be a good football team because Mario freaking Cristobal, a 500 level coach. Oh, and a new AD because ADs win football games for you. That's what y'all thought. That's what y'all thought. Oh, my bad. And what's that name of that award? Damn, I forgot the name of the award. But yeah, that OC that won that award. Y'all thought greatest staff ever assembled was together for less than a year. But you see what I'm saying? Y'all had a bunch of nothing. We actually have a bunch of tangible returning production. Like guys that have actually won football game and put up, 1,000-yard rushings and throwing for 3,000 yards and almost 1,000-yard receivers and guy that's double-digit sack guys. Like we've actually got tangible stuff and y'all don't. That's the difference. I want your opinion on something. Do you miss the time in sports when things other than championships actually meant something? My question for you would be what? I feel like, you can quote all the people. Who's the coach? You play to win the game. I forget his name, but he coached at Arizona State too. I should know his name, but I forget it like that. Mine's going blank here. I've always felt like you play to win. And I guess, Michael Jordan made it so that Michael Jordan showed a level of dominance of 6 and being 6-0 and never going to a game 7. And that now he kind of set an unrealistic bar for a lot of athletes. And I can see where people come from with that. But ultimately, to quote the great Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last, baby. And to me, championships mean everything. It doesn't mean that you can't have a good team and whatever. But like, what else is there? The beautiful thing is that I think the problem, or should I say, I think the problem is we don't compartmentalize. We don't just have seasons. We want to clump everything together, and we think, because Georgia's the 2-time defending champ, well, now they should get all of this for year 3, which I think they'll be there too. But we don't compartmentalize and go, okay, just because you were bad this year don't mean you can't be good next year, I guess, is the problem I see. But ultimately, man, I think championships are the bar. I mean, it's how you judge. I mean, if without championships, Bowden, and Bowden had a reputation for a while where, like, he couldn't win the big one. You feel me? So championships, like, you just end up like Charles Barkley. You end up like, Karl Malone and these guys that don't get talked about. People probably don't even know who Elgin Baylor is. One of the greatest scorers of all time. Like, we don't talk about losers. I'm just reading the comments. Herm Edwards, yeah. I mean, like I said, Herm. I wanted to say Hugh Hebner, and I knew Hugh Hebner wasn't it because he's the Playboy guy. I kept wanting to say Hugh Hebner. It's like I knew his name, but Hugh Hebner kept wanting to come out, man. I don't know where my mind's at, y'all, man. I think that liquor got to me. I might need to get off this thing and handle business. I don't know. Millie, we were silent because we hadn't seen it happen. That was a reasonable people do. Now we have evidence. I know it's tough to understand. Y'all let Ruiz gas y'all up. Herm. Who the hell who's Dennis? Who's that? Tom Brady. Tom Brady to an extent as well, but not quite the Jordan extent, because Tom Brady lost Super Bowls too. But yeah, 7. I mean, like, if you have listened to me for longer than a few months, Peyton Manning's my guy. I think Peyton Manning is, in my personal opinion, the greatest quarterback I've ever seen play. But if you ask me, it's Tom Brady, because I can't deny 7 champions. I can't deny the longevity. The man played till he was 40 plus years old, won 7 championships, and because of his longevity, he's going to be in every statistical category out there. How is he not the GOAT? Tom Brady is the undisputed GOAT. It doesn't mean he's the greatest quarterback I've ever seen, though. I'm partial to Peyton Manning. Dan Marino's another one of my guys that I don't think anyone's ever thrown the football better than Dan Marino. Though Pat Mahomes has to do more, but Pat makes some incredible passes, right? New Year's Six Bowl, I think, is a great expectation. Hold on, let me get back to Tyler here. Championships are the most important thing, absolutely. But I just miss when winning a New Year's Six Bowl meant something. Well, obviously blame college football as a whole for that, because they, when you add and I personally like the playoff, but the bowls were unique at that point where, even if you weren't in the Natty, those bowls were big games. And now I think It might be a little bit diluted. But I think the New Year's Six kind of matters. I get what you're saying though, because I'll be honest with you, I don't even remember who won any New Year's Six bowls last year because we're in an age where you only remember the playoff because the playoff is what matters. Obviously, we all know the Cheez-It Bowl because we watched that. We were there for that. We're Florida State fans. But I'll be honest with you, like I don't even remember who played in the Rose Bowl. Was the Rose Bowl Utah and Ohio State? I legit no, it couldn't have been Ohio State because Ohio State was in the playoff. I don't even remember who played in the Rose Bowl, to be honest with you. I don't remember who played in I think wasn't the Sugar Bowl, Bama and Kansas State. I might remember that one. So I agree with you to that point. Like, yeah, the big New Year's Six bowls don't quite. I mean, I remember Clemson and Tennessee was in the Orange Bowl, but yeah, I agree with you. I can't remember most of the New Year's Six bowls. I damn sure don't remember the Rose Bowl to save my life. Oh, no, it couldn't have been Oregon because Oregon played North Carolina. Yeah, I don't remember the Rose Bowl. Miami fans don't get that Mike built this team the right way. He took the foot off. He took the foot in the butt 70% of the journey. Now this is the year that the house is built and able to move on. I will say this, Anthony, and we talked about it last year, but Mike's following the age-old blueprint. Year one, lost by a lot. Year two was a way more competitive team. You still had a losing record, but you were close in the Notre Dame game. There wasn't a game Florida only beat you by 3. There wasn't a game I think what was the worst game in year 2 under Mike? What was the worst? I think NC State only lost by 10. Was it Wake Forest? What may have been the worst game? And you lost by a little in year 2. And then in year 3, you won by a little. Now you hit a hiccup. You did blow out a few teams, but you also, Louisville was a tough game for you. Obviously, LSU was a tough game for you. Florida was a tough game for you. Some of those games you had to fight in. You also was able to blow out Syracuse, Boston College, the good old Miami Hurricanes. But now you come to year 4, and this should be a game, and you should have a team that you should be winning by a lot. That's why I can never call him the greatest quarterback of all time. I'm just a fan of the way he threw the ball. But yeah, I can never call Dan the greatest quarterback of all time because he wasn't able to win, unfortunately. Did I miss a super chat? Oh, snap. Hold on. I honestly did not see that, Jeff. If I missed your super chat, I wholeheartedly apologize. Oh, wow, I did. Miami hasn't been relevant in 20 years. Last time they won a championship, Blockbuster, Hollywood Video. Yeah, man, all of that was around. Circuit City. Y'all probably don't even, well, if you old like me or older, you know what Circuit City is. If you under 25, probably, yeah, if you're under 25, you don't even know what Circuit City is, do you? A lot of stuff was around back then that ain't around now, but appreciate you, Jeff, man. I apologize for missing that one.
Clank, clickety, clank. The money goes into my piggy bank.
Jeff.
Was it USC and Tulane? Yeah, because Tulane made a New Year's Six. Yeah, USC and Tulane. See, that's what I'm saying. And that's the Tyler's point. You just forget some of these games. I've said that before. If only Dan Marino wasn't in Miami, he was the best QB I saw throw a ball before Aaron. Aaron who? Aaron Murray? Oh, Aaron Rodgers. I said Aaron Murray. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers at one point was in the GOAT conversation. He's lost too much recently for me, and he's lost with teams that he should had no business losing with. At one point, Aaron Rodgers was in that conversation of GOAT. But again, I know he won the Super Bowl young in his career, but he's lost games that he's lost playoff games that he shouldn't have. If FSU only gets a bowl, I don't think so. What bowl are we talking about? And will certain starters? I mean, that's always a. Let's say we don't make a playoff, but we make the Orange Bowl. Does Verse sit out? I mean, it's possible. I am personally not. But I also think NIL may have changed the whole sit out thing and some of the insurance these guys are getting in that. But I am personally not one of those people that hold that against. People call it quitting. I don't. I understand when you have a chance to make generational wealth for your family, you protect that. A lot of people say things, but they've never been in that position. I don't hold it against kids young men when they decide this meaningless bowl game, as we were just talking about, Tyler, how the New Year's Six bowls don't mean anything. Why would he play? Why would if Verse is going into the New Year's Six, if Verse is going to the Orange Bowl against let's say Tennessee or SEC team. It was Clemson and Tennessee last year, so let's say Tennessee gets back there. Or if Verse is going into that game, but everybody in the world is basically saying, you're a top 5 pick. Why the hell would he play the game? We saw the Michigan linebacker completely tear an ACL at a pro day and ruin his – I don't blame these young men when they don't play these games. Now, if you sit out of a playoff game, then I have a problem because now those are meaningful games to win championships and you're letting your teammates down. But we've already addressed the fact that the bowl games don't really mean anything. Yeah, and we don't win that game without Dalvin. Good night, John. Thank you for coming through. I think it was Utah and Ohio State the year before, but damn sure it couldn't have been last year because Ohio State was in the playoff. I don't think it made him leave, but I think they just got tired of arguing with y'all, man. It's all good. Don't sleep on Warm Moon. I like Warm Moon. I hear you, Jeff. I do like the playoff system we have now and what we got going forward, but I have to admit there's a part of me that miss the bowl games like they were before. I think a lot of us do. I do think to a degree, one of the good things about the BCS that people don't talk about, by the way, the score is 33-24 Boston. But one of the good things about the BCS that no one talks about is that every game was a playoff. Every game was essentially a playoff game in the BCS because if you lost the game, that was kind of it. Whereas in the playoff, and especially when we go to this 12 team, the regular season won't matter as much. Like I just said, in a 12-team playoff, Florida State should probably be in there every single year, if not every other year. And every other year, I don't know if that's acceptable because you can legitimately probably lose a couple games and still get in that thing. I agree with that. Antoine. Aaron Rodgers at one point was in the conversation, but he's lost too much recently. Because Joe won those 4, remember Joe Montana used to be the bar with 4 Super Bowls, and Tom Brady crushed that. Here's a better question for you, Jen. By the time we do schedule Texas A&M, will Jimbo still be the coach? Exactly. Marcus Lattimore completely butchered his knee, and he was one of the better running backs in the country, and that was it for him. And that's my point. I don't ever blame kids for sitting out. Can't do it. And injuries, man. We play Georgia not next year. I think 25. I think 25-26. I think is a home and home with Georgia. Could be wrong, but I think 25-26. In a 12-team playoff, teams aren't going to care about out-of-conference matchups. I think the 12-team playoff, while I'm excited for it, I think it downplays the regular season to a degree. And I agree. There's probably is going to change scheduling. I don't think people are going to risk as much in the regular season, probably. So we'll see. And then with the mergers of some of these super conferences, I mean, if you're in the big, theoretically, if the Big Ten has USC, UCLA, Florida State, and Miami, and Clemson and North Carolina, or Clemson and another team go to the SEC, and your conference schedule is Florida State's conference schedule is Ohio State, Miami, Florida, Wisconsin or something. Maybe they take a trip to the West Coast and use there's no need for added conference games as these major Power Fives, or what may end up being a Power 2. But as these major conferences expand, there's not going to be a need for the big out-of-conference games because the big games are going to be in conference. Well, we picked up we talked about him a little bit earlier. We picked up the JUCO safety. I personally, I don't think we're done. I could see us adding another defensive back. I don't know if it's safety, but a defensive back. And maybe we add a corner and that frees up a guy to move to safety. No, it wasn't the bowl game. Marshawn Lattimore got concussed in the bowl game. But you got to remember, Marshawn Lattimore tore his knee, had a gruesome knee injury. I think was it the year after? I think. But man, that's all we got tonight, man. We did a good 2 hour and 30. Talk to Keon, of course. Do like we always do. Get interactive with it, answer a bunch of questions, let y'all have y'all takes. I got my takes. We go back and forth like we always do. Shoot, I forgot Peter. Can't forget Peter. There we go. Peter with the $5 sticker. That is the laughing dog. So I don't know what Peter's laughing at. Appreciate you, Peter, with the $5 dog laughing. Let's get which one? Well, we haven't played here for the Miami fans. If y'all say y'all left, but I know y'all still watching, so I got this one for you.
Bitch, be humble. Bitch, sit down. Be humble. Sit down.
And then we'll end it off with the GOAT.
Yeah, more money. Yeah, more money. Yeah.
And with that said, like I said, guys, thank y'all for coming in on this Friday night and kicking it with your boy. Hit that like button on the way out if you didn't hit it on the way in. Again, I am now on TikTok, man. So get on there on that TikTok and follow your boy. as I'm probably gonna download this video and clip this video and start downloading some more videos on TikTok. Shout out to everybody, man. Let me get rid of Peter. Sorry, Peter. I'm gonna take your face off. By the way, the shirts, man. Check out the shirts. It's got the shirts. They still coming. Let me know if you want one. Let me know. Let me know. As always, man, it's your boy POLK over here on 863 Seminole TV. Stay classy, Seminoles. We are out here. Go Noles. Top 2 offense in the country.